Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Monday Masterclass conversation. Today, we're going to be talking all about accountability, useful, helpful, unhelpful, all of the above, with the wonderful Craig Roberts. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Simon Batchelor. I'm the co-founder of Better, Bolder, Braver, and I'm also joined by Francis. Do you want to do a quick intro for you, Francis?
Thanks, Simon. I am Francis Chalasji, the other co-founder of the Better, Bolder, Braver community and movement, I'd like to say. And of course, it isn't a Monday masterclass. Simon was just testing you there. It's a marketing masterclass, and it is a Tuesday, and we're delighted to have Craig here as our first Tuesday guest. So that's unique and original, as is Craig in many, many ways, as you will discover over the course of this, I think, probably quite frank conversation. We were just talking about the many things that can be covered off in this conversation that we hope will be. It's a very alive theme in our community to discuss this. I'm going to let Craig introduce themselves first, and then yes, we can maybe just touch on the various bits and bobs that could come up. Thanks to everyone who is here. We've asked you a question, which is, what does the word accountability mean to you, in the chat? And you may see that there's also a poll, which we'd love you to have a look at and to answer. And yes, Craig, how are you? What time is it? How are you landing with us?
Well, it's barely Tuesday for me. It was Monday 4.5 hours ago. So yeah, I'm good. I like the morning. It's a little cold in the basement, but I have some clothes on and I'm doing good.
Great. Tell us, Craig, today, what are you doing? What is life?
Today,
Yes.
today, I have no idea what I'm doing today. Yeah, I haven't gotten to that part of the day yet. No, what do I do?
That's the
I
one.
am. I'm happy to say that I've come into my own, as it were. Finally, I've found a life that I love. I'm not getting paid for it yet, for the most part, but I am helping people um, to live into the lives that they really want to live into. I like to say I help people to go through a midlife crisis without the crisis part. Hopefully, I find people before the last straw has hit the camel's back. But if the last straw has already hit the camel's back, then I can still work with that. Still help them walk through that and come out better on the other side. Um, when people don't have help with that, they can wind up blowing things up that would have been better not blown up. So,
And tell
but
us, what is your most recent revelation? I'm using a triggering word on purpose because it's you.
what is
Um,
my most recent revelation?
in terms of the kind of individual that you think you are best placed to serve and the kind of person that you would enjoy most working with in terms
Well,
of.
I'm noticing people that I've helped through this kind of thing in the past, and they're one of the things I have in common with them is that we're kind of people pleasers. We focus a lot on helping other people and wind up not helping ourselves. We take care of other people and we don't take care of ourselves, and that just comes to a head after a while. You can't take care of your family and take care of the people at work and take care of your friends and do all of that and not just totally burn out on everything at some point. So yeah, that's the kind of person, hopefully before they burn out on everything. um,
Thank you. This relates, I think, to the accountability thing because what we've discussed is how, uh, without wanting necessarily right away to kind of deconstruct the semantics around accountability, let's just stick with it as a word to use for now, which hopefully most people can kind of vaguely understand what we mean by. So accountability has this kind of very positive element to it, which I think people think about in terms of camaraderie and sort of good company, being sort of spurred along, inspired, and and cheerleaded or cheer-led, whichever one is the right one. And then there's the shadow side, which is, either accountability, as I'm sure you will talk to later, can be associated with things like guilt.
Basically accountability is for, in some times we use it for, punishing people for doing something wrong.
Right.
Making them feel bad for doing something wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. Or I just want to add in also this idea that you can sort of burn out, as you say, by being so helpful to others, providing such useful space that and that's so nourishing. And there's chat about the Enneagram. There's been lots of chat in our community, hasn't there? Well, when I say our community, we're in two communities with you. One is the Better, Bolder, Braver community, which you're a member of, but also we are in the Happy Startup School community, and there's been a lot of chat within that community about the Enneagram. But yeah, sort of burnout because you're so energized by helping other people that you can sort of lose yourself in that process. So, but let's go back to a beginning of sorts, which is your sort of where you've come from previously, and sort of why the word accountability was raised by you as being, and I'm not allowed to say triggering either, so perhaps you can provide what the word is.
You can say triggering if you like.
Yeah, right. So 2 words we're going to be taking apart a bit today are accountability and triggering. So over to you on that, Craig.
Accountability, I was raised in, I grew up in a relatively conservative Protestant church. And when I got off into college, I started hanging out with super conservative people. And I was in Bible studies or men's groups and things like that. And accountability group or accountability in such groups was basically you would go and tell the other people all the things you did wrong so that they could make you feel bad about yourself and try to do better. So it was about shaming each other basically. And we were all young men, right? So almost everything we talked about was how we looked at women in lust and various things related to that. So accountability was basically hanging our heads in shame and telling the other people in the group about how we watched women walking across the quad from the rear in one. That it was not only shaming ourselves, but sort of shaming humanity in general. And the thing that got triggering to me was we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and never changed. Nothing ever happened. And I've also been in other accountability situations where there was a power dynamic, where it was me with a boss or a supervisor. And accountability, even though we were supposedly holding each other accountable, when there's a power dynamic, the other person has sort of the say over whether or not I feel shame about my behavior, but I can't really, it's not reciprocal, it's not equal. So I can't really shame my leader or my boss or whatever. So that dynamic, so it's not really helpful as far as changing behavior or getting things done or anything like that in either of those situations. So that's why I say it's triggering for me, just because I just remember it being both of those relationships would have been better without the accountability part. Mm-hmm. Or doing accountability differently than that. And that's what I thought accountability was until long after that. It's only been in recent years that I've discovered that accountability can be a beautiful part of a relationship between people, where we're really sharing what our intentions are and saying, you know what, I really want to do this, but I'm having this and that and the other trouble with it. If it would be really helpful if you could just check in with me periodically and see if I'm doing these things that I'm setting out to do, and not make me feel bad about it, but just, if I know I'm being watched and supported, then I'm more likely to do it. And that's good accountability. So I'm becoming okay with the word.
That's really beautiful, and I love your description of it. Very briefly, just tell people why, particularly in the States, the word triggering is triggering, just so that everyone's clear.
It's not for everybody. I just think that sometimes I think people use triggering as a way to not talk about something that's touchy, or that's actually an elephant in the room. But yeah, it comes up sometimes. It comes up so much in conversations that we can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't talk about. I mean, yeah, there are some people who are triggered by basically human beings, and yeah, it just in some, I don't know. I've been in some conversations where, oh, that's triggering for me, and I'm like, really? Yeah, maybe it's uncomfortable, but I don't know. To me, triggering is more of I have trauma in my past life, um, and some things someone brings up is actually kind of making me re-experience some of that trauma feeling. That triggering, we really need to pay attention to.
Mm.
But if it's just a word I don't like, um, yeah, let's be careful with triggering, shall we?
Surely. I love that I hadn't even considered that if when someone says to me, this is triggering for me, I hear that as an invitation to ask them more about it, as opposed to
Yeah,
shutting up and
maybe.
not talking anymore about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, great, let's
Yeah.
talk
Well,
about
the
that.
other thing with triggering for me is that if we talk about nonviolent communication, with all the gun violence and all that in the United States, guns have triggers, and the just using the word for me is sort of triggering.
That's what I
Because
was referring
I'm
to.
I'm I'm
Yeah.
into I'm really super pacifist and nonviolent, and trying to remove all violent language from everything I say to myself and to other people. And yeah, I don't want to say I'm triggered, because I just the word has some violence attached to it for me. So I'm triggered by triggering the triggered language.
I want to just also briefly make sure that we've weaved into this your poetic skills, because as anyone here who has the joy of knowing Craig will know, Craig doesn't just say things. The poetry with which Craig can put the most delicate of concepts, or now I'm going to think of alternatives for triggering. When Craig is dancing around.
I poke, which
Yeah,
is
that's
slightly
okay.
slightly less violent. I like poking things.
Yeah, and I don't know if you or
Chris
Chris
is here,
came
one
up
of my
with.
fellow pokers. Yes.
Yeah, we've got a couple of pokers here, so I don't know who started the poke movement, but we love it. Fine, poking, which maybe is triggering for me. Anyway, open to the floor. Alternatives for triggering, poke, dancing around with.
Yeah.
So yes, but Craig has this amazing ability to, and of course this is incredibly relevant to Simon and me in terms of how we invite people to tell stories and frame things in a way that feels safe, playful, and joyful. The spin on which Craig is able to kind of frame things through what I would call his poetry, I think is magic, not to be missed. So whether that's sign up to Craig's newsletter,
That
which
makes
I'm
me so
sure
happy
I'm
that you
happy
would
you're
that you
happy.
would say, well, because I consider myself a poet, but yeah.
Well, good. So we're going to somehow link to your newsletter, which is a new fabulous thing that you've built, so that people can sign up to that to hear a weekly. Is it weekly poetry from you, Craig?
Weekly-ish.
Ish,
I'm
love it.
going to Los Angeles next week to help my daughter with the birth of my first grandchild, and we'll see how getting a newsletter out every week continues. I might need some accountability.
Which is why you're in our community. So let's talk about maybe the more positive spin on sort of what you. I'm just so everyone knows, we've finished the Vision 2020 5-month experience with the Happy Startup School. Simon and I decided to go on it because what we wanted was to work together in a space that I think on retrospect was about being sure that what we were building wasn't just something that was massively exciting for us, but of great value to other people, which it very much did serve to do. And for me also, it was a just hugely influential, confidence building, existential journey. And I happened to be in an amazing buddy group along with Craig and a number of others. And
Yeah, poor Simon.
we've been told that we were the most amazing buddy group of all time. It very much felt
That's
like
what
that
they said to
us.
my group.
Oh,
Hang on
yeah?
a minute.
Yeah, I suspected that.
That's what they say to all the groups.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a gold star. Everyone got a gold star.
But it was quite amazing, wasn't it, Craig? The way in which our group bonded.
It has been, definitely.
Can you talk about?
Yeah, it actually helped me make a major life transition that I had already been making for about 2 years, but I kind of finally got all of my body all the way around the corner instead of just my head.
And you talk, I mean, I hope you won't mind me saying, but you've kind of referred to a number of times how, finding your people. And it's the first time that you sort of felt really safe. And I'm wondering if I can poke a bit more into that and ask you to talk about, what was it? What was the accountability that was going on for you that made you feel so safe in that environment and able to move forward?
Well, I actually, if you look at my website and read my about
Sorry,
page,
Lauren, we're being accused of being cliquey and almost cult-like, so let's rein it in, people of the Vision 2020 variety.
Lauren, thank you very much for the accountability. I appreciate it. If you look at if you go to unfoldhere.com and read my about page, you'll find that I've felt most of my life like a misfit. Like the world really wasn't set up for me. And part of that is just my attention deficit disorder, and the world really isn't set up for me. But part of it is not really finding people who like to think about career, like to think about how to do business in the way that I thought about it. But when I discovered the Happy Startup School, I found that everyone there pretty much was on the same page. This idea that the first important thing about what we do for a living is who we are and what's important to us. The first thing that's important to us is not how much money we're making or the starting with the needs and starting with who I am and bringing my full self to whatever it is. That really, and also I think that even though a lot of the people may not consider themselves creatives, they are all creatives, people who are curious and who like making things. And it's really fun to be around those kinds of people. And the people in the Better, Bolder, Braver community as well are that flavor of person, but also want a whole group of people who are focused on helping other people to come more into themselves in various ways. So did I say anything?
Yeah, you did. I'm thinking about honesty in all of this and just being able to...
Honesty is such a lonely word.
Go on. Where does that go after that?
Mostly what I need from you. I don't know if that was the right melody, but yeah, mostly what I need from you.
Honesty is... say it again. Honesty is what?
Honesty is such a lonely word, and mostly what I need from you, yes.
Thoughts on that?
Thoughts on that, honesty? Well, I think if we're doing accountability well, honesty is the first bullet point on the list of things we're doing. Because if there's no honesty, then the accountability isn't going to work. If we're not feeling safe enough to be able to be honest about what it is that we're asking other people to help us with, and if we're not being honest with ourselves, and the other people are not being honest with us, there is no accountability. It's something else other than accountability.
So why is it lonely?
It's lonely because that's the way the song goes.
And why does the song go like that?
Well, I think that's more of a love song. And I think it's about, I don't know, I have to go back and look at the whole lyrics.
I'll post them while you're chatting.
But I imagine that honesty is a lonely word if it's only one-sided. If I'm the one being honest and you're not being honest, then yeah, I'm lonely in that. And that would be accountability that's not very much fun.
Yeah, I think accountability is a kind of thing that a lot of people use for themselves as well as others, to kind of either help them do something, get somewhere, be something, whatever that change is they're looking to make. And I think for some people it can be that thing that holds them and helps them along that way, along that journey. So if it doesn't have honesty, then it doesn't feel authentic and doesn't feel like something you can trust. And if you can't trust it, then it's not going to work, because as soon as there's any give in the honesty of accountability, then it's just sort of checking in for checking in's sake, should we say? If you say, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to do this thing," and someone says, "Well, how are you getting on?" and you go, "Oh yeah, great," but actually you're not. Then if you're not being honest with yourself,
You're
then
cheating.
yeah, you're basically cheating at accountability if you're not being honest with yourself. But also if the person keeping you accountable gives you any slack in that element of the honesty, it has to be two-way, it has to be reciprocal. I think what you mentioned earlier is you can use accountability if the power dynamic is one-sided. So if one person is using it as a tool to do something other than what you want it to do,
Yeah, I think the
then
word for that's
yeah.
manipulation, not accountability.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if it then becomes that manipulation, but if it's honest, if you're both being honest with each other in the accountability and that trust is there,
Mm.
then I think it can be a really powerful and kind of really useful thing that a lot of people look for and a lot of people rely on, I think, to give them structure and support.
Well, I think the backside of that makes that work is that that there's a within that honesty and vulnerability between the two people. When I fail, when I don't do what I said I was going to do, how do we deal with that? If we deal with that by saying, oh, so like what's going on for you, if we deal with it in a way that doesn't shame and doesn't make people feel bad about themselves, if we say, okay, we fell down, how are we going to get up? How can I help you with that? Or maybe how do we need to rethink this so that we're doing it differently or whatever? If that's how we're doing it, then accountability is really useful. But if we feel bad when we don't do what we said we were going to do in that relationship of accountability is going to be difficult, even if we're being honest. Because if we don't feel safe to fall down, at some level, we're almost talking about friendship. It's different than friendship, but there's a level of trust that I know I can go in front of this other person or these other people and say, I said I was going to do this and I didn't do it, and I wish I had, and then we can come together and say, okay, so why didn't this happen? Why weren't you able to do that? Was it just that the bar was too high, or is there something else going on here? And when we can have those kinds of conversations, accountability, I think, is super useful.
So two things I just want to mention. One is that we are incredibly privileged in Better, Bolder, Braver because the people who are in the community are coaches, and they all are very emotionally intelligent individuals who are able to flutter above and funny. They're able to kind of observe from a distance without being necessarily massively emotionally invested in what someone else is doing, enough that they can be of great support, kindness, friendship, and provide an amazing space for people to flourish in. I just wanted to say that. And also, so the word manipulation amazingly came up for me first thing this morning in a conversation with someone. And I was quick to point out that, in fact, one of the definitions of it, as I posted in the chat, is the act of manipulating something in a skillful manner. And I was thinking about doing pottery and, manipulating a material. And when we become craftspeople, we are able to shape something by manipulating it in a way that makes something beautiful. And then, of course, as we all know, the other definition of manipulation is the action of manipulating someone in a clever or unscrupulous way. So just wanted to sort of shine a light on yet another sort of semantic.
So I think the question there is what are you manipulating? Because I think when it's helpful, you are in a relationship. It's helpful when we're working with the ideas and the questions. It's not helpful when we're actually trying to change the person against their will, or if we're more focused on the ideas and the actions and even the feelings, then manipulation, I'm using air quotes, it is actually super helpful, because there's a creativity there, like you were saying about with pottery. That's one of the reasons why creativity is so helpful, because it brings another set of eyes, another wealth of wisdom, another mode of creativity into the mix. Instead of it just being one person trying to figure it out, you've got a whole nother person who can say, what if we shape it like this? And that's how we make progress, much more betterly than if we didn't. I know how to talk English
and many other languages.
Very true.
Mostly just Japanese, but
that's enough. Before you mentioned people who I can relate to because I've been there before, and I just want to remind people that there are some people in our community who very much have identified, because they've been on a journey with us, that they should indeed work with people like them. And then there's others who've come to the realization that it is difficult for them to work with people like them, and actually they're better placed to work with people who are not quite so close to where they are on a journey. And I wanted to ask you how important you felt it was to be able to kind of relate your own personal experience when you're keeping or helping people in terms of being accountable and telling a story. Is it important to you to be able to relate things back to your own life?
Yes, definitely. I think. Are we talking about accountability, or are we talking about coaching? Because there's some overlap, but
that's what I'm thinking about. Chris's comment here: influence over manipulation. Perhaps it's impossible to coach without, for better or worse. And I'm thinking that made me actually think that people in our community are trying as hard as they can to not influence or manipulate a client, but to provide space. So I was thinking, well, what is the other word? Is it like, I don't know. Is my cheerleading in the same family?
In my experience, this could just be my own style, but in my experience, it's about asking the right questions. It's about helping people to ask questions that they hadn't thought of, that take them in directions that they couldn't have gone had they been thinking about them themselves. At some point, I guess you could say that's manipulation if you're using kind of leading questions where you know where they need to go and they don't see it, and you use your questions to kind of push them over that edge or whatever. Maybe you could call that manipulation, or maybe you could call that leadership. Right. Maybe you could call that compassion. Maybe you could call that psychology. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could call it.
Love it.
But I think if we're doing it in love, in compassion and empathy, and with the desire to help, and we see, oh, wow, that didn't go very well, I'm really sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that's so wonderful, and thank you, because the levels of awareness thing, we talk about journey of consciousness and the levels of awareness, and everyone has been saying this is the most amazing bit of what you guys are talking about. It seems to really
Well, that's why
resonate
I
with people.
decided to hang out with you. Actually,
Yeah.
it's the colors on the chart that I liked, but
So that's the reason why you joined the community. Chris very kindly
the
gave us some
colors, yeah.
feedback yesterday, and has mentioned to us that, you know, it was the journey of consciousness and levels of awareness that's also of great interest to him as well. And just the point of mentioning that is, you've mentioned earlier that it's people who are unaware, which is the first level of the journey of consciousness, that they might need to work with you. And
Or
similarly
maybe
to
on the
me,
cusp of awareness, but not
right?
quite
So
there yet.
yeah, exactly. But still, let's say unaware, just for the sake of black and white. And yeah, so
Or
similarly to
let's see, what
me,
is it? Olive green and
yeah. What colour
mustard
is it,
yellow or
Simon?
something like that.
Now you're testing, Simon.
Oof. I spent most of the day yesterday looking at it as well, so I should know, but I can't.
And
Yeah,
yet
I'm
you're
sorry.
It's
unaware.
very, very.
It's
It's the
beautiful.
fuchsia into
Well,
yellow.
there's also this kind of cycle, because as we're coaching, and even in any kind of accountability relationship, there's also part of what the thing Chris is bringing up with manipulation, or how do we make progress without going through that cycle? Because when we're coaching someone, or even if we're in accountability with someone we might call a friend, at some point the purpose for the relationship is to get us out of those places where we're unaware, into figuring out how to change things, how to become more whole, how to move forward, whatever the thinking or the perspective is that moves us forward. And there's, we all have a lot of places where we're still unaware about whatever it is, and we're unaware about what we're unaware about. So there's this spiral going on here.
This is why you and I love unaware to problem aware. Simon likes to work with people who are problem aware, who come to them and say, I've got this problem. And then Simon loves the next 4 levels, which are moving them to solution unaware, solution aware, and then most aware.
I've been pondering that, and it could be a thing, but it also could be, maybe it's not for you or I, but it could be for somebody, for some hypothetical coach or marketer. It could be that someone is more interested in moving people from unaware to aware, because they have imposter syndrome, or maybe even some kind of perfectionism that keeps them from having confidence in moving people from solution aware to product aware, because
Interesting.
they're kind of they're cool with people figuring out that there are solutions for their problem, but they're still hesitant to say, I have the solution for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just my little tiny theory that I just
love
came
it.
up with.
Oh, I love it, Craig. I really do. Thank you for
Because
that.
I think that might be true for me.
And it may well be true for me. And I just want to stay with this for a second and just revisit the earlier chat about influence and manipulation in marketing. So are you going to be manipulating, Carlos says, if there's an urgency to make change happen soon? There's obviously a very time sensitive quality to that question. But I think, again, to Chris's thing about not being able to do coaching without wanting to somehow create change, which could be influence or manipulation oriented. And then you said, Craig, it can be compassionate, it can be with love, it doesn't need to be toxic. I mean, this speaks to Simon and my passion for ethical marketing, and to remind people that, we are in a position of influence, we are in a position of authority, if you like, manipulation, and we can do it with compassion and with love and as a gift. And because we are qualified to manipulate in the pottery sense, in a very craft like way, and help people, as you say, Craig, get from A to B where in the first place it doesn't even seem to be a thing that they might need to try to shape. So
at some point, if as coaches, I mean, if we can talk about our clients, us holding our clients accountable, which is a little bit different because it's not mutual. If two coaches are holding each other a client, it's a very different dynamic than if I'm holding a client accountable. But to speak to the manipulation point, I think some people are coming to us and paying us to manipulate them. That's what they want. This hasn't been working on my own. I need somebody to kick me in the butt and let's get some of this stuff changed, because I've been working on it on my own. I've been doing programs. I've been reading books. I've even talked to counselors, and it just isn't working for me. I need a coach who's going to say, just get your butt out of the whatever and do the whatever. And maybe there's some manipulation there, and it's in love, of course, but I think some people want that manipulation. They want to be manipulated. That's what they're paying for at some point.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's fabulous. The clip of that is going to be of great value on your website. Can't wait. Simon, we'll be clipping it straight after.
Exactly. I was going to say, I think the old coach of mine used to say, some people want the carrot and some people want the stick. It's just, you need to determine who wants which side of it. And yeah, you're right. I think some people, come to you wanting that because that's what they say they want. But underneath that, what they really need is just a structure to follow, because the reason it hasn't been working before is because they've been a bit lost and they've tried 5 different things, and each time it's been pulling them in different directions. They literally end up back where they started. But as soon as they work with a coach, they see that actually if they do it all in the different order, then it all works in the same direction. So I think it's that thing, and this is what we talk a lot about, is meeting clients where they are and using their language to talk to them. So if you know that your ideal client want the stick, they want, like, I really need someone to kick me in the arse till it works, then you can say, look, I'm not going to muck about here. I'm just going to kick you in the arse till it works. Then they'll be like, brilliant, let's do this. And when they leave working with you, they may be like, oh, wow, working with Greg was amazing. He taught me all of this structure. He gave me all this direction. He gave me all of these da-da-da-da. And they don't mention the stick at all because their understanding has changed and you've taken them on that journey. But if you try and do all of that before the work, if you spend all of your time saying, you might want the stick, but you don't need the stick, you're trying to tell them what the solution is right at that unaware stage. And it's what most people do in marketing. It's like, if you're having trouble sleeping, buy my 6-week sleep course. You're like, what are you talking? Why would I do that?
Because it's so stinking boring. It'll put you straight to sleep.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that thing of you just go straight for the sale and people are like, whoa, hold on. So I think accountability definitely comes into selling coaching. There has to be an element of what you do that at some point is going to make you go, oh, that word doesn't quite sit right with me, but all my clients keep using it when they walk in the door. Every other email I get uses this word and it it irks me. But sometimes you just got to be like, do you know what? I'm just gonna have to use that word, and then as part of our conversations, we're going to start to understand why maybe that word isn't the right word. But, initially you've got to lean into it, I think.
I'm quite interested in Anya's thing from before.
When we're talking about marketing, yes. Sorry.
Go on.
I think there's a slight delay on Craig.
All right, as it were. I want to just check in on Anya's comment. All right, no worries. No worries, friend. Anya earlier said, I wonder if someone focuses on the awareness aspects.
Or Francis is breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
No, it's Craig. The undersea cables are straining.
Maybe can you hotspot? I know you have some issues in that room, Craig, sometimes.
I'm still seeing you. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, can you hotspot your phone?
Like I've lost Francis. It could be. Are you hearing Francis still?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's that little girl not being heard
Oh,
problem
okay.
again.
Yeah, my stream, I have a network error.
Can
Ensure
you-
you have a stable connection and try again.
Simon, can you ask Craig to hotspot his phone? I'm not being heard.
I think he's gonna. We'll give Craig a few seconds.
Oh.
So, Francis, carry on with the
I
question
always
you
panic hotspot. Quick to change up the connection. Right, stop talking in metaphors. Anya, lovely. I wonder if someone focuses on the awareness aspect. I wonder if someone focuses on the awareness aspect is simply the difference between an educator and a practitioner. So I'm going to read that as, if we are just educators as opposed to practitioners, what we're doing is shining a light as opposed to trying to shape or influence or manipulate. But I wonder if you're still feeling that way, because you then go on to post a brilliant example, because obviously you did, Anya, because it's you, of wanting to be manipulated. And then you talk about in the chaos stage, meaning we're unable to absorb complex information easily. So I think you're sensitive to that idea that sometimes we do just need to be held and maybe shaped. And Carlos talks about...
You're back, Craig.
Hello.
Okay, I'm actually using my phone to connect to the internet now. Sort of. We'll see how that works, because I'm actually
talking about that little girl.
not very close to any antennas. But
okay, cool.
I don't still have Francis though.
You've lost me, or you can see me.
Can you hear Francis?
We can still see you, Craig. So carry on as if Francis is here, because she is here for everybody else. So let's just crack on. You just have to go with trust here. Francis is. Can you hear Francis?
I can't.
Oh my gosh, so strange. That's not going to work, is it?
So you didn't hear what Francis just said?
Nope.
Wow.
My. I've never had this before. This is potentially the first proper breakdown of Crowdcast midstream.
Let me reload that I've changed my... Let me just reload the thing.
How funny. But you can hear me. That doesn't make any sense.
This is such a metaphor for my
career.
career.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there's only 2 cables available going under the ocean right now.
I was going to say, there must be a whale chewing on it or something.
You're the mediator.
It's all good. I'm going to... Anyway, bear with us.
Oh, poor old France. She's been cancelled. I'm having a really triggered moment of this is how I felt in the corporate space for many, many years. Thanks, Anya.
Craig is back.
Yes.
Can you hear? Oh, Craig is not back.
Everyone, this is exactly what we intended from this session. To show you all that...
I'm just going to re-invite Craig.
There's no such thing as perfect, and all these things have great value to us all. Thank you.
It's unfolding as it should indeed.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Would that we could keep the internet connection accountable.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yay! Back. We are back.
Because I'm in a different place on the screen now. So
you are.
I loved what Chris just said, a Crowdcast crisis without the crisis. And it's so much more beautiful. Nice one, Chris. That's really lovely. I don't even know where we were. That was a brilliant opportunity to
I've noticed we've got a couple of questions in the Ask a Question bit. So let's jump in with those.
Yeah.
Carlos from Brighton asks, is there accountability without responsibility? Can you be accountable for making something happen, but not responsible if it doesn't?
Ooh, that's a good one.
There is a good question.
Is that, Carlos,
what are your
is that a
thoughts
bit
on
like responsible to, but not responsible for? Is that in the same family, would you say? Craig, were you there for that?
Is there accountability? Well, am I here? Was I there?
We came up with this idea that to children you can be responsible to them, but not responsible for them, because you can't necessarily be responsible for what ends up happening for them inside, but you can be responsible to them. You can continue to show up and do your best.
Right before the whale farted on the underground cable, I was wanting to go to this thing about about accountability, like in a coaching relationship, for example, where it's one-sided. Basically, one person is accountable to the coachee is accountable to the coach, but the coach isn't accountable to the coachee in the same way. And I think it's sort of related to this responsibility thing, but maybe not.
Well, that's interesting, because that's exactly the opposite to a parent and child, where the parent is always accountable to the child, responsible
I don't
to
think
the
so.
child, but not always responsible for what happens to the child, because they
Yeah,
can't possibly be.
right. But I don't think the child holds the parent accountable until later on when they get into counseling and
Right, but that you're talking about then holding someone to account, not accountability, which is quite a different dynamic altogether, which we can talk about, because
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure there's a cut and dry. I think that those are different parts of the same thing.
okay. I'm thinking about accountability within a community. I'm thinking about support. And when you offer, or a buddy group, when you offer someone space, and therefore it's a degree, there's a quality of accountability in that space, an invitation to them to continue to show up with what they have in a regular way, or to kind of share where they're at. Sorry about the doorbell. But then would that person feel that that buddy group or community is held to account?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would call that accountability.
What
I
shall we
think
call
I
it?
think it becomes accountability when when another person has the permission, or when the community has the permission to come and ask me, how it's doing, or why I didn't do something, or where there's where we're actually talking about the outcomes that I intended, and because to me that's what accountability is I'm coming I'm sharing with another person the intentions that I have, the outcomes that I'm looking for, the things that I want to do. And the accountability part is they are helping me do that. They're watching me, they're checking in with me, they're whatever, asking questions, helping me look at it differently, helping me when I fall, whatever. But there's I'm coming into the relationship with asking for help, basically, asking for other eyes to watch what I'm doing, so that I know that it's not just me trying to figure this out.
And how does that play for you into Anya's question? Is there something here about separating our self-worth from what we are able to accomplish, which also facilitates the boundary between guilt and shame?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of our goals in good accountability is figuring out how to get the shame out of it, and that is related to self-worth. Because if the accountability is making people feel bad for what they did or didn't do, then yeah, the self-worth is being attacked by the accountability, and yeah, shame is at work there. Yeah, so we're if we're doing accountability well, we have a good container for it, and there's trust and respect and understanding that removes the behavior from the person, and the self-worth is not changed or affected by any outcomes or lack thereof, or any of the conversation around the outcomes or the lack thereof. Does that make any sense?
It's funny because I think, this kind of also sits within the conversation of, if we talk about emergence as we do, does that leave people thinking there's no agenda here? Like, it's that dance between saying you're going to get something out of this, I can tell you what it is, or I've no idea what it is. It's going to be an experience, and that in itself will be of great value. and the unfolding, in fact, to use your word of it, is the thing that you will be getting.
Well, I think when we're doing coaching, well, there's a lot of emergence, because it's about helping the other person to set intentions and to see things that help them move forward in ways that they wouldn't have been able to do by themselves. But we can't do that without being in a relationship of trust and being in a conversation, in an emergent conversation. You and I can't just get on a call and you tell me what the problem is and I tell you what to do. That's not really accountability. If we have a conversation and we start getting into, whys and underlying stories and get bigger picture stuff going on, that's all emergent, and the questions that come out of that are going to be different than if I just come in with my expertise and tell you what to do. Does that make any sense?
It does, and what we're doing, I think, is just highlighting how potentially unuseful the word accountability is in describing the sort of quality of space that we are trying to talk about when we use the word.
Yeah, at some point, a lot of these words become troubling. I think it's partly our Western minds. We like dividing things up and examining them under microscopes and saying what they're not. And at some point,
this is not a.
At some point, the words are going to fail us because English is a very low context language, and all these words are going to mean different things for different people. And we can talk about it all day long until we're all blue in the face and not really have any super solid conclusions that could be written in a book and sold to everyone on the planet and have that be useful. I
want to just remind people, though, that when we talk about accountability in terms of keeping going with your marketing, we aren't just talking about an emergent space, as lovely as it is that we have those, which we do have in the community.
We are talking about some butt kicking.
We're talking a bit about butt kicking. We're talking a little bit about, I would say, confidence building, because I think, as Simon said before, people are kind of looking for all the answers. And they will find answers, because Simon and I have got 40 years between us of experience, and we can actually, with authority and confidence, tell you how to do something on the basis that it may well work. But when we talk about accountability, we're also talking about just having people alongside you doing things that might feel similar, and giving each other pep talks and sort of confidence boosting moments of reflection along the way. So it isn't just that we're having loads of emergent chats to try to understand our values, needs, wants, limits, etc. a bit more. It's actually doing shit. So that's what we're trying to get a word on.
Your word accountability may embrace more than mine does.
We'll continue to search.
Because if I show up in a community, and I go to Simon's workshop on how to do LinkedIn better, and I do LinkedIn better because of it, because I learned something that I didn't know how to do something, and then I go do it, and my life becomes better. I don't know if there's any accountability in there. Because I'm not asking Simon to check and see if I'm doing LinkedIn better than I was before, which to me would be accountability or something. I'm just going there and finding a better way to do something that helps me move forward in what I need or want. But I don't know if that's accountability.
Interesting. I've noticed there's a couple of people who are present here who would have a lot to say about the ways in which they're able to show up and do work in a community, in a group, in a collaboration, in partnership. I'm just looking down the list of people who are here or have registered to be here, and I think we all, between us, have experienced what it is to have someone in our lives who is keeping us going. I think that's my description of accountability. That's what I'm trying to talk about.
Okay.
When I talk about.
I see. Yeah, the
just keep going.
Momentum.
Yes.
Well, at some point, Yeah, I think we kind of have to start drawing Venn diagrams with accountability and leadership, accountability and intention.
Nice.
Those Venn diagrams need to be thrown into the dance and let's push the lowest setting on stir, shall we? Don't want to grind things up too much, but yeah, I think the leadership is definitely a part of the thing, because my definition of leadership is things that we do that influence other people's behavior. So when I go, that's leadership, because see, you had a reaction. It did something to other people, and maybe you can call it manipulation. But that's my definition of leadership. So if as I wrote on LinkedIn yesterday, if I'm in the checkout line and I smile and treat the checkout clerk as a human being, and that totally makes their day and maybe even changes their life, or even if it doesn't, I consider that to be an act of leadership.
And just to bring this back to the quality of your work, just to bring this back to the quality of what I think you are able to do with people, they may or may not think that they're on the precipice of a midlife crisis. The work that you can do, as far as I understand it, is not only bring them back from it, but start to celebrate all the things that they are that make them able to sort of show up for themselves and for other people, which is at the heart
at some point, I think most coaching is going to come down to helping people feel more comfortable in their own skin.
Exactly. And if that's what this whole accountability
and there's all these other issues that come up when we start doing that, because there's a lot of different reasons why people don't feel comfortable in their own skin, or a lot of things about themselves that they don't like and might want to get rid of. But at some point, we're helping people to say, okay, this is what it is, and it's okay where we are now. So now what are we going to do? Where are we going to go from here? What are our intentions? And then leadership accountability is helping those intentions unfold, as it were.
Thank you, Craig.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Simon, let's
I think that's a fantastic thought to end it on. I mean, that says it all, really, I think. So I think we're thank you very much for that, Craig. It's always fascinating to be in a conversation with you. So thank you very much for joining us and persevering with the whales and the internet.
Sorry, I've got some roofers outside.
That's all right.
Craig,
where would you like people to connect with you?
If you look for Craig Scott Roberts, just about anywhere you can find me. I'm not very active in some social media circles, but I'm happy to connect. LinkedIn, I'm trying to be active on. And also, if you go to unfoldhere.com is my website, and I change it about every other day. So
all good websites too, Craig. It's all good websites too.
There's way too many words on it, but that's just me. I say with 600 words what people would say with 10, and that's if you don't like that, then you're not a good match for me. If you like reading, then hang out with me and I'll give you words.
There's also plenty of ways that you can hang out with Craig if you don't love reading or can't read, because he's.
And if you go to my website, you can subscribe to my newsletter, which I call Unfolding Weekly, because I don't like the word newsletter.
Great, but hopefully we'll see you all in an event with Craig. There's a couple of communities, ours and Happy Startup School, which Craig hangs out in as well. So plenty of opportunity to interact with Craig. And no doubt you'll be doing another wonderful kind of workshop of some description at some point soon. So we'll certainly look to promote that for you as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but March 21st, the spring equinox, I will have a crowdcast. I think it's going to be something about agency, which is sort of the backside of everything we talked about today. How
nice.
do people actually decide and choose things in their life, and how can they sustain that?
Nice.
So kind of looking at the completely other side of.
Where can people sign up for that, Craig?
I have no idea because I haven't created it yet.
Well, keep your
they can
eye
tell
out.
me they're interested.
Yeah, connect on LinkedIn.
Is it the
Wherever they
21st
find
of
me, they can
March?
tell me they're interested. Hopefully in the next week, as I pack for going to Los Angeles, I'll get something put up somewhere.
Great. And did you say it's the 21st of March?
21st, yes, spring.
So
it
I'll
should
just do a save
spring
the date
equinox on your calendar if it does celestial events.
So spring equinox, 21st of March. Save the date.
2022.
Lovely. All right. Thanks, Craig. It's been an absolute joy as ever.
Thanks very much, everybody, for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.